Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Today we have this kind of random thing I'm starting up. Just a couple of random podcasts, just pretty much random discussions just for fun about like college or just random things in general. So I have my friend Bailey today. Bailey actually did a regular interview with us for Boston University. You can check that out. But yeah, anyways, so today I asked Bailey previously, what did you want to talk about for today? And he kind of just went like, you know what, let's just do whatever. So I can see the pure disappointment in his face already. But yeah, so anyways, I told him that we're gonna start off talking about Boba because I think that's the one thing we can relate to the most. I think you can agree on that, right?
Sure, yeah.
All right then. All right. So basically, the first question I had for you, because I thought this was a good way to kind of start off a heated debate. Um, what do you usually call it? You know, I know people call it between boba, some people call it bubble tea, and some people call it like pearl. So like, what is your opinion on those different names?
See, coming from a cultured place called the San Gabriel Valley, I call it boba, what it's supposed to be called. I've had I don't know, I've had my fair share of going like around the world to see what people call it. Like I've been to Taiwan, or I mean, it's in Chinese, so they call it in Chinese. But um, in the East Coast where I go to school, they primarily call it like bubble tea. Um, and occasionally boba. And in Australia, they also call it bubble tea, which, I mean, I didn't really have much of because it wasn't that good. Like, I had cha time when I was in, um, where was I? I was in New South Wales, yeah. And then had cha time at one of my friend's local malls. It was, how can I say, but lackluster. But yeah, boba.
I mean, when you come from San Gabriel Valley like us, there's gonna be a lot of better options in cha time. You know, like no offense to cha time, like cha time, you're right. Like if I had it, I would be okay with it. But like, we come from a place where there's like plenty of other like way better options. We can discuss that later. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah,
But
I've had cha time like twice in my life now. Actually, I don't know. I think once. I've been to cha time, the one in Arcadia, the one like way by. I think it's Longley Way. I think.
yeah, there's
Um,
one by there. Yeah.
yeah, I went there with I think I went there with Matthew one time, Matthew Frame. But yeah, I don't remember if I ever got a drink, but the time I actually got a drink, it was not very good.
And I will be honest, that's the only location I've been to for cha time, and I've only been there like once or twice. I think no, the only time I went is because they had a deal going on. So that's
Mm.
the only time I went. It was some like buy one get one 50%. I was like, okay, sounds cheaper. Boba's expensive. It's like I invest so much money into boba as it is. I might as well find the cheapest option possible. But yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's represented in like my crude like stamp cards. Like I have a whole stack.
how many do you have in your stamp card actually? Or how many?
Uh,
Find that like I'm actually curious. Because I was looking, before the call, I actually was looking at my stamp cards, and I was like, I realized I only had three because the rest I either lost them or I tossed them out.
let's see, what is a stamp card? That's not a stamp card. All right, so these are all stamp cards.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and like I think like maybe a quarter of them are filled. Actually, I take that back. One of them's a business card from the original boba place in Tainan, I think. Maybe. Yeah, perhaps. But when I went to Taiwan, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
These like
6,
this means, you know,
7,
you have money when you
8,
have the
9,
ability.
10, 11. I have 12 stamp cards.
12. Oh my
Um,
god.
12 physical stamp cards. I also have like the online ones, the ones that use the the at the when you pay
There's
they have the white
yeah,
I want to say square. Yeah, square.
yeah, they
And
have
then
I know they
you
have like
can,
online ones too.
yeah, I have a couple of those too. Some of
Okay,
them
but
some of them my parents just put in my phone number for me, and they said I didn't even know. I just got a notification saying like, oh, you have like 3 points from T pumps. I'm like, what? I was like I was at home, or actually I don't even know what I was doing, but my parents just like typed in my phone number, just assuming that I'd be the one to go with them in the future to get T pumps or something. But
Mhm. Okay,
yeah,
but realistically, about like how many of those stamp cards have you actually finished? Because I think I've only completed like one or two in my life because the rest I would just lose it or I still haven't finished them. Like I think I'm on like six for like one of my cards.
um, my I know I've at least completed my AU card. It's like a almost like a gift card sort of thing. It's like a gift card, and you can reload a balance on it. So think of it like a Starbucks card.
Mm.
But I've refilled that like I've maxed it out like two or three times, and I've gotten like three free drinks. Um, I have another full one right here for Titty Tea, except I haven't had time to go. I just used a Nestea one. I almost have a full one for Happy Lemon. Um, and then Seven Leaves, I've like filled it up a couple times. So I've had my fair share of like, oh geez, maybe I'm spending too much money on boba.
I can tell you are, dude. Have you seen your Snapchat? Whenever I see your Snapchat stories just like that, every single time you're always getting boba, I'm like TFTI because you never get me boba.
Hey, again, I'll reiterate again, it's still at the boba shop. You can always just pick it up.
Yeah, but no, yeah, no, that makes sense. I think yeah, those stamp cards it just takes forever to complete because I don't. Well, I go pretty often, I would say, like more than I should. But you go like I think you honestly go way more than I do. Like you go a lot.
I think it's because like my friends and like my brother and my parents, they all drink boba and
Mm.
they're all enablers. Maybe I'm part of the problem too. Actually, I'm probably most of the problem. But even like at school, I'd go all the way to Chinatown just for boba. Like
Jeez.
that's like I want to say at least like 3 or 4 stops away from BU, but I'm like still willing to go.
You know, I'm pretty sure every single time I hang out with you, when it's not in a school set or school related setting, we always end up at some boba place every single time. Now that I think about it, every single time we go out to hang out or to eat or something, we end up at a boba shop like every single time. I'm like, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe you are the problem.
I mean, where else are we gonna go?
I mean, you just get normal food first too, and then I guess you could technically go for boba after. But it's just, now that I think about it, like every single time it has been always boba. I don't think I actually hang out with any of my friends anywhere else other than like it's either Starbucks or some boba place. That's literally all we studied or did our work at.
I mean, it's like the only place that won't kick you out. So
That is true. I mean, they don't really care. Quite honestly, I think the
yeah,
people working
as
there
long as
also.
you like get a drink.
Yeah, I mean, they're high school and college students. I doubt they care. So it's like, it's pretty true. And no one wants to go to a library because it's just too silent and it's like painful. Being there. Yeah. Anyways, I was gonna ask you, what do you think, in your opinion? I know it's gonna be pretty heated. If people watch this, they might dislike the video, but what do you think is the best boba place? Let's settle this right now. Let's see. I want to see what you say.
I have different places for like different drinks.
For different.
Uh,
Okay. Then what are
yeah,
they?
I'd say like for a fruit tea, I'm pretty fine. I'm like content with AU 79 just because it's close by and it's
Mhm.
relatively good. If I want like a consistently good drink that I know I'll enjoy, I'll go to Seven Leaves. But I don't always go since it's in Alhambra and it's kind of far away.
Mm.
Um, for like very aesthetically nice looking drinks that are also good, Omomo, but that's also really far.
Yeah.
I think the closest one is in Chino Hills. The other one's in Irvine, but it's pretty good. Just when I try to go with my brother early on in lockdown, or maybe a little bit later on when stuff started to open up. But then we went all the way to the one in Chino Hills, but then right when they opened. But then they told us like people put in orders like right when they open and they have like an instant backlog of orders.
Oh,
So
geez.
our when we got there and it just opened, there's already an hour wait. So we're like, oh, just kidding.
Ooh,
Yeah.
all
So
right. Let's see. Well, I'm trying to think of what my favorite ones are. Yeah, I feel like you've been to more places than I have. Like, I know there's a bunch of places, but I just like, I think I only choose. I guess my favorite ones are probably the ones that I've only go to. So I would say Nest was probably one of my go-tos because it was super close to my house too. So that was a big one. And I typically just get the same like fruit teas there too. AU I'm okay with too, but I always just get like a bunch of ice. Even when I ask for half ice, it's still too much ice. So I'm just like, I'm not really drinking anything. And then I'm trying to think. I really don't go to many different places. I think
I mean,
Factory Pizza.
what's your like preferred order if you're
Oh,
gonna go? Do you
let's
ask for
see.
like full sugar, full ice, full
Okay, so
sweetness?
let's see. Okay, so here's the thing. So in terms of what I get, I typically avoid any milk tea because I'm lactose intolerant. So I avoid any
Uh,
milk tea.
it's
So that kind of takes
unfortunate.
out. But yeah, I know that takes out basically half the menu. So usually I normally get like fruit teas. I think my go-to options are either strawberry black tea, mango green tea, or a passion fruit green tea if they have it. So those are taking my three go-to drinks. And then let's see, I rarely get. Well, I usually just get boba, but every now and then I'm just feeling like lychee jelly, so I usually get that. But yeah, I think I just go normal sugar, and then I try to ask for light ice, but every place varies on the freaking ice because it's either they still give me too much or they give me too little that the drink is just like lukewarm, and I hate it when it's like that temperature. It's just it's not drinkable anymore when it's like lukewarm and you only have like two ice cubes on the very top. It's so annoying. Why are you judging?
I feel like that's not normal to have like a lukewarm drink when it's like fresh.
That's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying. It's like
you can always ask for it to be remade or ask for ice to be added.
that is
Or if
true,
you're
but
like sitting in, if you're sitting in, you can ask for no ice.
I that
Or
is true,
like,
but I mean typically though when I'm getting it, I'm not. I think it's been more recently. I would say the boba places have been around USC. I'm not going to name names, but the boba places have been around in USC have been
is it the
prone
place
to.
that I know that is it the place that I'm thinking of, the last one that we went to? The one right on like by Jefferson, I think,
Oh,
by
maybe
the El Pollo Loco, I think.
oh, I mean, there was like, which one did we go to when you came by? I don't even remember.
It was the one like right outside the gate by your dorm ish.
Oh, that one. No, that one was atrocious. That one's just atrocious in general. I'm not
That one was. I've been there a couple times. Every single
gonna,
time, it
the one
hasn't
in
been
like
that
the
good.
kind of sketchy area, right?
The one that I went like at night with like you, Morgan, and everyone.
I think that was, yeah, I think that was a sketchy one because that was not too good. No, I actually ironically have not gotten a lukewarm drink for them. I think it's just because the rest of the drink is pretty lacking in general. I just haven't noticed. No, it was another it was another place that I went to for it was like I've only been there twice. The only reason why I've been there twice is because the first time we wanted to try it out because it was a new place, but it was terrible. But the second time, one of my friends wanted to go, and I was like really hesitant on going there. And then they're like, "Oh, can we just go anyways?" I'm like, "Ah, fine." So I was like, I'm a nice guy. So I would say a win, and it's like, no, it's just it's too lukewarm. Because the thing is, when I get boba, I don't like. I think recently too, because it's been recent at USC. I'm not the kind of guy to stay at the boba shop, especially since I think there's better places to go and study at school. Like there's the library, or like I go somewhere else. So I'm usually just grabbing it and just taking off, and then like the moment I leave the thing, I'm like, this drink is lukewarm. It is not fun to drink. It's like the equivalent of like when you put the boba in the refrigerator and then you have like super hard boba.
Yeah, that's like a struggle. But especially if I know I'm like storing it, I usually don't get boba. Maybe I'll like get jelly or something like rainbow jelly or just no toppings at all.
Yeah, I mean
And I'll
typically,
ask for like no ice since it'll like dilute or get watered down. So
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I don't think I've ever had the willpower to be able to save my drink. I think I'm just usually that kind of. I'm like that one kid who finishes it within the first 5 minutes. I think so. Like, yeah, I gotta get my drink cold, but it's so hard to ask for light ice so you get more drink, and then they end up making it super warm, and it's not fun to drink at all. But yeah, I'm trying to think what else places have I been to. Honestly, I unfortunately have not had good boba around USC. And I think it's just because I don't go out too often to like anywhere in like Chinatown, like Koreatown, like those areas where there's probably more boba shops. I kind of just stay within Figueroa, like within our 2 mile lift radius. So that way I don't have to go out and actually get an Uber or something like that. And within that radius, it has not been the best. There's only like one place that's decent, but uh, it hurts your pockets after a while.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah.
I've felt that,
Well, okay.
especially when I'm at home at least.
I'll put it this way: how often have you gotten boba? Like weekly or like per week?
Recently or like in the past.
Let's go with senior year. I think senior year is a good.
Senior. Oh, geez.
I think senior year is a good indicator for both of us.
Um, Senior is bad. We'd go like every week. Because we had band, remember? So we'd go every day we go every before every band rehearsal,
Or every like
and
Wednesday
then
night.
yeah, Wednesday nights, and then when we had concert band sectionals, we usually go. If we had comps, we'd usually go, or we'd do something. So it
Or
was like
or
senior year
during
was
lunch.
just like
I think even just
lunch.
during lunch we would go.
Lunch, yes, but not as much since I was kind of lazy. I kind of just tagged along since I was brought lunch anyway. And even if I didn't eat, I just eat during Gov. But
But yeah, I just ate
it
during fifth.
was, yeah, during fifth period.
Now that I think about
So
it, yeah, that was what we did. We just kind of went with whoever else was driving.
yeah, it was usually, it was Aaron. It was Aaron or I was forced to drive. But
Huh. Yeah, we went a lot now that I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to like think about it. If we went like what roughly 2 times a week, would you say that's accurate?
um maybe at most. I remember we were very ambitious, or I don't know if ambitious, but we were very naive in the beginning of senior year. Like I messaged my group chat saying, I made an Excel sheet and we can map out places that we want to go. We can like organize who's driving or organize
Oh my
um,
god.
like, but that obviously didn't turn out well because we were all kind of lazy, and it was not a very well thought out. I guess also because we didn't expect to always go off campus to eat because like it was like economically not very viable, and two, we didn't always want to drive, and three, it's like usually super hot, and we didn't really want to deal with the heat.
I'm trying to think right now. If you go at most 2 times a week, and you spend like what, probably $8 per week, roughly. Oh, actually, I think even more. We're spending
No,
almost like
dude, I mean that's like 2 times a week, like just with those people. I could have gone like in a day. I've had like 3 cups of boba. Like
I've done that too. I've definitely done that too. There was
yeah,
the one time.
like one time
No,
I got like boba like every day in a week. Like if I were to
that
like
happened.
track my expenditures, it'd probably be like 98% of like senior year was like boba. Maybe
No,
10% was like school purchases or like school expenses.
I think mine was the same too, but mine was more like probably like 80% boba, 10% Starbucks, and then 10% school, actual school thing. Because for the most part, dude, now I think about how much I spent boba on, it's actually kind of
I mean,
depressing.
for coffee, I usually made my own coffee just because I didn't want to spend like $3 or $4 on something I can make myself that I
Okay,
thought
I mean,
was
I guess
good.
yeah, I didn't. I think for Starbucks, usually it was just because I had a bunch of gift cards from like birthdays or Christmas. So
Yeah, yeah, gift cards, or if I was like really desperate and needed coffee. And oh, but then eventually in Miss Leahy in Gov Team, she let me bring, or she let me use a coffee maker. So I had my own Keurig in class, and I'd make coffee in the middle of class, or I'd also
see,
use it to make hot water to make instant ramen. So I was
I swear,
really like thriving in that class.
you're that one kid in class who has his book up, like just frying like a waffle or something in the back room, or like making an omelet, literally on his desk. I
I
swear, like you're literally that one kid in class.
I kind of did that actually. In at the end of senior year, I brought a George Foreman girl to psychology because it was like after I think
I
after
remember that.
finals
I
or
remember I saw you bringing that or something.
yeah, like so yeah, we made pancake bacon and pancakes. It was pretty funny. And then aside from that, in apes we on the last day
Oh
of
right.
like our meals, we also made we made a like a 6 cheese mac and cheese.
Oh
So
my god.
like not like a nightmare for you, but it was like
Yeah.
pure deliciousness to me. Um, but yeah, we made it in class. Like I asked my teacher, I was like, can I bring a portable stove or like an induction stove? And we did. We brought one, and we did it in class, and that was fun.
I think I've definitely cooked food in class a couple of times. It's just like ironic. Like we both of us didn't take any cooking classes in high school. It was just like, well, I
I mean,
would
there's
say
only like one cooking class. It
yeah,
was
and it
like
was
food
like
science.
yeah, and it's not like we could have taken it anyways or like anything culinary related because we were in
I
band
didn't
and we
have
had a
time.
yeah, we didn't have
Yeah.
time to. No, I mean when it was apes, I remember apes. There was a lot of food that we made. Like
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird. It was an assignment. We had to grow
yeah,
our own food and cook
yeah,
it.
and then
I
so
mean,
yeah,
we kind of bent the rules. Like our first meal, we made a steak.
the
Yeah, yeah,
irony of like
yeah. If you ever go on our website, like our Apes website, and it has all our meals, dude, all of them we made them like 5%. 5% of the reason why we made them was because it had our ingredients, and like the other 95% was just to flex on people, just because we knew we could. Um,
that is
oh,
so true. I'll be honest. I don't think I really used a majority of the actual like vegetable that we grew.
well, because I mean, we had like however like a 5 maybe or like 5 weeks to grow everything, and then the
Mm.
only thing you can grow in that time is like maybe
Cilantro grew pretty fast for me at least.
yeah, it's like herbs decor and other forms of not fulfilling things. So I mean, our like rationale was oh, we used our green onions or we used our thyme to enhance our meal. Because we asked our teacher, Mr. Vo, and he said as long as it is a defining flavor profile in the food and it can be like distinctively found, it passes. And so obviously we're like, oh, well, we can take creative liberty. Like, well, we can't grow a cow, but we can make some herby tasting steaks if we like butter baste it in a pan. And then we also made like um, ground pork and chive wontons. And so it's like, well, we it was fun at least. It just we had to be extra creative with what we could do.
That is true. No, I mean, it's just like I remember nothing was growing. I think well, we had to cook for 6 weeks, right? So
I think so, yeah.
two of the dishes we did, we just used the cilantro twice because we were like, good, nothing else was growing. So just ended up making some random. I don't even remember what the cilantro did. I know one of them was good, and the other one was a disaster. It was really, really bad. Um, they tried. I wasn't there for the cooking. It wasn't my job that week. It was two other people, and they tried to make like a porridge, like a congee kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
And oh my god, I don't even know what happened to that thing. Like some parts
How
of
do
the
you like
congee.
mess up a kanji?
Okay, I don't know, but some of it, like the congee, was either super hard or it was super liquidy. So imagine just taking a soup with like rice chunks in it. That's basically the consistency of it. And I was just like, oh,
I mean, I see how that can happen just because it's not fresh. Because I feel like if you wait too long, the kanji will solidify and then it will become like a very like a paste almost. But if you put too much water in like the ratio of rice to water isn't balanced, then you'll have a very liquidy kanji.
yeah,
I mean,
I
I
don't know.
guess.
It was so bad. I was like, I couldn't even eat it. Like I think the rest of the time I sat at another person's desk just because I didn't want to see it. No, I'm not
I'm
gonna
like
say that.
going through my old recipes and Jesus, like why did we put so much effort into this?
Right? If
We
it's like it didn't even count much for a grade. I mean, it was a good portion of the grade, but it's not like it would have made or break my grade if I didn't.
I mean, it
I
didn't
mean,
make or break our grade, but at the same time, we were always number one. Like
that is
we had
true.
we had teachers come to us for our food. We had special delivery services for like other teachers. I remember at towards like the middle of our meals, we would have extra utensils and extra like plates and cups so we can bring them to other teachers. I remember like I would bring them to like my old English teachers. Like I made my fourth meal. We made honey thyme ice cream, and like I remember we had like small Dixie cups, and we filled them all with ice cream, and then we would just like deliver it to our teachers. Um,
Time ice cream. Interesting.
well, it's
How did that?
because school actually has time. I mean, we grew time, and we used a lavender. We use lavender to color it.
Okay,
And
that
school,
makes sense.
there's lavender plants at school by the garden near the lecture hall. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we asked Mr. Vo, we were like, hey, well, we didn't grow this. This is already being grown at school by the school. Can we use it and say it's a integral part of our meal? He's like, yeah, sure. So we just went ahead.
I mean, you might as well if you can take advantage of your resources. You might as well just see what you can make out of it. That
Yeah,
makes sense for
exactly.
lavender. This is an interesting flavor combination: honey, thyme, and lavender.
Well,
Mm.
it's a we try to recreate like I think it was like an old salt and straw flavor. So we knew it tasted good. So um, the honey gives it the sweetness in addition to the sugar that you have to add to the milk base, and then the thyme gives it a bit like savory, makes it savory, and then the lavender gives it like a smooth,
Okay.
very like
Yeah,
herbaceous get give with the thyme. So it's very uh it went well. At least it tasted very good.
that
It
makes sense.
I don't know. Sometimes we had like one thing that's like coming back to me is like what the first time I tried it, it kind of tastes like soap. Like think of
Yeah,
it
I
like
mean,
yeah,
lavender's used a lot in soap products.
yeah, like you think of it as like a yeah, like soap or like some kind of like bath kind of like whatever. But
Uh,
yeah, at first it kind of tastes like soap, but I mean we like tweaked it a little bit to make it a little sweeter, and we had um like baked graham crackers. So
Hmm.
like sort of what you would make if you're making a cheesecake base, and we
Okay.
had that as a topping. So it kind of made it a bit more palatable since it's sweet and it's baked with butter. So
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
not
I
the
think
healthiest food, but it's good.
obviously, pretty much it's just like ice cream. Like I can't. I would get destroyed on that. But I know. I don't think. I just think flour, like rose, lavender, just using type of like flowers for food or cooking in general. I feel like you either like it or you don't, because it's very
Yeah,
like herb. Like it has that really herbal taste, but like I don't know. It's a weird taste. I don't know how to really describe it. It's like how do you describe it?
yeah. It's like a rose milk green tea.
Yeah,
Going back to
exactly.
our
Boba.
boba
Yeah, yeah,
conversation.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it cuts through a lot of the flavors that you normally associate with the milk tea, like
Hmm.
because it's very creamy, it's very smooth, and then the flower aspect, uh, the rose, or in this case lavender, it's very apparent. And yeah, you have to like kind of you like it or you don't, and it turned out okay. Which I mean, that's all that mattered.
I mean, hopefully it turned out okay. As long as you didn't make any like weird kanji looking thing like we did. As long as you don't like put food poisoning on anyone, I think that's usually a good option.
Can you synthesize food poisoning, Christian?
I don't know. Even though I'm a STEM student, that's a good thing to figure out. I should definitely look into that.
Because I feel
Not
like
that I'm.
it's stem pun intended. It stemmed from like a bunch of different kind of like bacteria or something, or like undercooked like E. coli if you
Well,
undercook your
yeah,
meat.
obviously. I mean, that's just like you not preparing the food, and technically, yes, you could synthesize food poisoning.
Huh?
Uh,
As in, so just like, all right, I'm gonna drop a sprinkle a little bit of E. coli in your food.
I mean, now that I think about it, it's a scary thing because we were making the food, and it's like you could have lied and not have told anyone what was in them. Like you could have said that, oh yeah, we didn't blend peanuts into this like smoothie, and then some guy ended up blending a peanuts into it, and like you would just drop dead like maybe half the class who was allergic to peanuts. So
I
it,
mean, that's like a I don't know that's more of a I don't know who'd be in control of that, but I'm pretty sure we had to disclose any allergies or make it
we
clear if we couldn't eat something.
that is true, but if you really hated the kid, it's not like you had to disclose. Technically, there was nothing that they could have proved that whether you were disclosing it or not. Like let's say there's a kid that you really didn't like. I'm not encouraging violence or anything like that here, but I'm just saying, like, if there was a kid you didn't like and you knew he was allergic to peanuts, you could have just like put it in and not have told anyone. So in theory,
Well, I feel like that can have more legal ramifications. Um, I mean the only exceptions I can see is like foods that have been known to be processed with peanuts. So like sunflower seeds or like
yeah,
what's another like Twix bars. They have it's
well,
disclosed on the wrapper.
a lot of chocolate
Yeah,
companies
yeah.
have like
I
factories that
mean
have been handled with nuts.
there I can see some cases where it's accidental, but if you're intentionally doing that for the purpose of harming another person, that's a whole nother conversation.
That will cause a war. That will create some legal problems. Or you can just like reverse psychology it. Claim there is peanuts so that the kid who has a peanut allergy doesn't eat it just because you hate that kid, you don't want him to eat the food. Just saying.
Well,
Now I'm thinking about it, there's a
I
lot of
suppose. Well, I suppose the second instance is a bit less incriminating, but
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's just yeah. No, I'm just thinking about it now that looking back at that year, there's a lot of loopholes in that class for that project. Maybe I have to edit this part out so no one gets any ideas.
we can omit this entire conversation.
Just omit the entire conversation, honestly.
Just omit the
And
entire podcast.
dude, for real, watch me. Ah, that was good. Went all the way from boba to talking about food for a solid like 30 minutes. It just goes to show how much we care more about food than anything else.
I mean, have you grown anything since apes?
To be honest, no. I think because I took apes my junior year, right? So I think let's see, senior year I mean, we were just busy because first semester was like we had band and I had other clubs and plus my college I have to deal with. So it's not like growing anything was on the top of my mind. And in second semester, I was just lazy because senioritis. So I would say I honestly no, I haven't. And it's not like I could have grown anything in college, to be honest. Like my grandparents do grow stuff. Like we have an orange tree and we have like a couple stuff in our backyard and front yard, but I don't like go out of my way to actually plant something. You know,
Hmm.
do you actually plant stuff?
Yeah. Like outside, I have an entire pot full of green onions that I
Hmm.
use when I cook. Um, for like sometimes for garnishing, other times for actually to use. I mean, I don't really count fruit trees or like
Yeah.
yeah, fruit trees because I didn't grow them. They were kind of there, and we just kind of upkeep them and harvest when they're ready. But I think I try to grow. Trying to think. I think it was thyme, but it kind of died, which was unfortunate. Maybe I don't know what happened, but I think it was probably like the soil. Soil wasn't good, or the way I planted it wasn't good. Um, Other than that, I don't really do much since I don't really have the space, or at least I don't have the energy to like make the space for an actual herb garden
Yeah.
or like more vegetable growing. Also because we have a bunch of like animals where I live, like
Oh yeah,
they're kind
that's
of
true.
annoying. It's like
Yeah.
I have the peacocks, which are like, um, Jesus, like don't even get me started with peacocks. Then we have squirrels, and then
Yes,
we
because
have rabbits. Rabbits. We have the occasional coyotes. I mean, I don't think they'd be a problem, but I mean, they're there. We have other like birds, like um, large and small birds. But yeah, there's a lot of like wildlife, I suppose, wildlife that could possibly eat them or like prevent its growth. Um, Also, my backyard, I think that we'd have to like make planters for it, and that's kind of a lot of work. Like I've helped make planters before, like somebody's legal project.
that's
Uh,
true. It is a lot of work.
it's not the most difficult thing in the world, but it's
Yeah,
a lot. You have to
give
plan for
me
it.
flashbacks to my AP Bio summer project. I had to actually grow those plants. I was like growing mung bean plants and I had to do like a whole science like write up
Oh
on it.
yeah, I remember that. I remember somebody. I think it was like somebody who was in London was telling me like the summer in the summertime they had to like all the summer labs, right? I, that didn't seem fun. I remember I was like, oh, now I know I'm not going to STEM.
It was not. I remember I was having it was such a pain to do that experiment. Just like executing it was already hard enough, and then I had to write a whole report for it. And it's just like it was still graded so hard. And then, like you had to make a really unique experiment, and I couldn't think of anything unique because I didn't want to do like watering it with different things. I didn't want to do like pH. I didn't want to do like lamp color. So I literally just said, okay, I'm gonna test gravity.
How would you measure pH? Would you have to have litmus papers like at your house?
Kind of. There's like some pH solutions that you can kind of create and like as long as it's within a certain range. So I guess you would test like probably like maybe five plants with a pH of like 12, and then five plants with pH 11, then go down the line in those increments. There are like solutions that are already pre-made for you, so technically you can just use those. But I was like, I don't want to do that. Like that's basically just watering it with different things again. Just it wasn't any much interesting. So I was like, I don't know what to do. So I just tested gravity.
Interesting.
No,
I
like it was
mean, I suppose, but I mean, quantitatively, how does that really measure up? Like, how does gravity really come into effect of anything?
so it was like my
Because you can't increase or decrease gravity.
you can't no. So I
Well, at
think
least
okay,
not in this context.
let me be more specific. So the specific like variable was gravitropism. So it was basically the effect that gravity has on plants, right? So I would test certain
Okay.
plants like normally, like 90 degrees straight up and down. Then some of the plants would be grown at a certain angle. So the pot would be tilted at a certain direction. And I would kind of tilt certain pots. And then the last like one would just be me knocking down the pot entirely. And then I just use a string to measure it. So basically the proof is that um, plants won't like they won't spew off in whatever direction that the pot is angled. They'll still go up no matter what. So I was testing to see like whether or not gravity would either would promote the growth. And my hypothesis was like if the more angled it is, the more it will because I don't remember what the chemical was. See, I'm a science student. I should know this. but it was like a specific chemical that kind of promotes the plant and tells it, oh, hey, we got to grow up, not this way. So like when there's so much a buildup of concentration in a certain area, the plant knows that it's not upright, so it has to turn upright. So I was like hypothesizing like, oh, this should signal the plant to technically go up because it's promoting it to grow in that direction. And technically my results were true. So I mean,
I
it
feel like
worked
that's
out.
like a cop out hypothesis.
What do you mean cop out hypothesis? What cop out is there
I,
on that?
I just it's assumed. It's like plants. Most plants don't grow at an angle unless there's some kind of external force on it.
Well, I mean,
Um,
obviously, but that's why it was a hypothesis. I was supposed to test it out.
I don't know. Maybe, I have this thing where like I have very ambitious like plans to do something, and I want everything to be perfect. But I know it can't be perfect because like, well, if I had the answers, I'd be like lauded as like some kind of like some academic
Wow,
genius. It's
basically.
like, yeah, because I'm like, well, I have like I have a project coming up for one of my classes, and then I like pitched it to my professor just in case. It was like, dude, this is like a PhD dissertation. Like this is like way too like broad and like way too specifically tailored for a broad example, like a broad response. Like you need to find a more it has to be narrower. It has to be more specific. I'm like,
Basically, you got to chill.
because it was what it was global consumerism in the context of the digital revolution and how it would affect global and domestic markets. And then the more I thought about it, I was like,
That's too broad.
hmm,
I agree with you, Professor. So
yeah, that would require a lot of work. That would require like statistical data, like that I'd probably have to field myself. That I'd have
yeah,
to like code myself to like get the data, like some kind of like recursion to like do it all for me, which I have no experience in doing. Um, and like the more I thought of it, I was like, why? Why do I make things so hard for myself? But yeah, I changed it. It's since been changed and has since been um, preemptively approved. So
man, look at you. Might as well just go for a PhD too then.
uh, I like instantly wait. No, I wouldn't instantly fail out. I wouldn't even freaking get in. Or it's like, oh wait, you have to reapply to grad school. Oh,
That's right. You
fuck.
gotta apply. Gotta do a GRE. Gotta
Take
have a
your LSAT.
dissertation on. Oh, do you need the LSAT for your for PhD in political science or international relations? Is that required?
Um, I mean, I think it just like bolsters your chances of getting in.
Mm,
Um,
that makes sense.
but I mean, especially if you want to go into like law.
Mm,
But I mean, I think for the most part, taking your GRE is just your best option. It's like the SAT. It covers the most things, but it's also the most controversial. Oh, what are your thoughts on? I think the UC system like doesn't
mm.
take the SAT anymore, right?
Very good change of topic. Yeah. I Here's the thing, because I think you know this pretty well, that I was not a fan of standardized testing. I didn't agree with it because I personally felt that standardized testing changed from like you know how like the idea of creating it was to create like a universal test among every single student to
Yeah.
kind of like you know because different high school and different districts. So I kind of agreed in that aspect. But the problem was when you have like prep courses available and all those things, then you kind of just defeated the purpose of creating a universal test. The test didn't measure like a student's like I would say I don't want to say
Like
natural
economic disparities. Yeah.
like yeah, it didn't test like natural intelligence. I don't know if that's the right term. I know that's a bit of a hazy field either, but like it didn't test like just their natural knowledge, like what they actually knew. Instead, it tested like yeah, like you said, like almost like socioeconomic policies, like whether or not you can afford those prep courses, whether or not you're in a district that was fortunate enough to provide you those opportunities. And then again, if you think about it, if your school district wasn't as strong as another school district, then your school district is more likely than probably not have as good a scores as another school. So it didn't make sense to me creating that test in the first place. So, okay, so anyways, going back to the UC thing, you mentioned that the UC uh, eliminated the entire, or I know they made it optional for this year, and I know they're, I don't know if they officially announced it yet, but I know they're planning to completely like remove it. I think it, you know, ironically, I think right now with COVID, I think it's the best time to slowly transition into the removal of the test, in my opinion. I
Do
think,
you think there's an alternative, or do you think just
see, that's the
um,
problem. Like, the only problem, the things with the alternative is like, the unfortunate part is that there really is no good alternative I can think of like right away, you know. But that being said, I think honestly, just using GPA and using like extracurriculars or what was provided to you is probably the best option we have right now. I just think it's just because that those test scores are too varied. Or I think rephrase it. I think the way we approach accepting students should be a little bit different. Like if you're gonna look at the student and what they've accomplished, I think you really have to really like look into the student in respect to their specific district, like what school they came from. Like obviously like schools have those like they provide that information like, oh, how many APs do we offer, like what clubs do we offer, and sometimes stuff like that. Like if you kind of compare what the student did in respect to what was provided and give it to them, I think that would make more sense to gauge a student. But I don't know. I just think college applications in general is just a super vague and ambiguous process. Like you don't know why some kids get in, you don't know why some kids don't get in. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't agree with test scores though, because I'm okay with GPA stuff. I'm okay with extracurriculars. I'm okay with like everything else. It was just the test score that I think for me was super. It just didn't make the most sense, I think.
I mean, you can also argue that your grades, your grade point average, is also can be indicative to what kind of what kind of resources you have available,
Yeah, that
especially
is
like
true.
so I feel like that's also kind of a nebulous topic. It's grades are also like they're very subjective, especially you mentioned like school districts are different from each other. Like our
I think, yeah,
3.0 can be a school's 4.0, and
yeah,
so yeah, I
that's what I'm
find that
saying.
very
Like,
hard to account for too.
I think it is. I mean, the only reason why I think I'm a little bit more okay with it, or I'd be more okay with it if the student was more, if they compared it just like in respect to the average of that specific school district. Like if you got in not because you were compared to a student at another district, but you got in because you were compared to your own school district. But then again, I think that would just that more competition, so that would be even worse. Like honestly, the whole process is super ambiguous. But I just think it has to be rethought of in a way. I think the only reason why I'm okay with GPA a little bit more is because of the fact that, well, yes, you can also account for resources and like how variable it is. Unlike the SAT or ACT, which is just like it's kind of like a one-time test, or you can like retake it. But realistically, most students probably won't take it more than like 3 times, right? So you get 3 shots at getting a score. Whereas, in my opinion, a GPA is an accumulation over 4 years, and so like even if you did bad one year or you didn't have a good teacher one year, like everything will balance it off an average. And yeah, I know per district it varies, but I would say that at least in my opinion, it's kind of going back to science. Like when you're testing data, you want to get as much data as possible. And I think in a GPA, there's more points that you can account for that actually kind of balance each other out rather than just the SAT, which is like a one-time test or like 2 or 3 times depending on how many times you do it. At least that's my opinion on
Yeah, I agree with like your equivalency to like a larger sample size, like statistically speaking. But I mean, the way I view it is like the GPA, I guess, is a bit more legitimate and reliable since it's long term and is representative of 4 years of school. I'm assuming
it.
four
Yeah.
years of high school where you have if you're taking 6 courses, then 6 courses per semester. So that's 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, 24 classes or 24 grades in total that account for your GPA, high school GPA at least. Um, I mean, it can't be perfect. I think that's like something that you
Yeah,
just
that's true.
can't get perfect. Also because yeah, it's different for everybody, different for every school. So it's
Yeah.
like you can be more perfect, as in like you can enhance it or you can better it, but it can never. There's never going to be like one set of guideline meets all. Like
Yeah.
I last semester I wrote like I want to say like a 12 or like 13-page paper
Mm-hmm.
on like affirmative action, especially in
Yeah.
college admittance. And then it made me look at a lot of different school systems, uh, their admissions process. So what I focused on was the University of Texas, since there's 2 cases against them. It's Fisher v. UT Austin, I think. I think it was in like the early 2010s, maybe. I'm forgetting, but maybe 2007. But that's why they were that's why they first came to mind. So they had like a very broad set of criteria that had a bunch that like measured students or applicants by a point system, and I mean the controversial aspect was like it's like race was included, but
Yeah.
I mean it that's besides the point. I'm trying to say is like I think if if you can measure like more extracurricular activities, like what they do
Yeah.
outside of school, like measure them as a human being, not as a GPA. Um, I think that could be a little bit more nuanced, but at least it's more representative of who the student is and what the student can potentially reach.
Yeah.
Also, potential is also like a very like it can have a very negative connotation too. But I mean, for the most part, I think it's just um, you're trying within your best ability to get the best results, and I think that's like what we currently have. But I mean, with everything being online, it's kind of hard to have accountability. Like AP tests were online,
The
yet
AP
still like
question, as of recording this,
50% of people got like ones and twos on like tests. I'm like, Jesus,
yeah, no, it is
I
true.
thought that was insane.
I mean, the test scores came out, well, as at the time of this recording, it came out today, July 15th.
Today I saw.
And then I know because my brother was taking AP Hug and he told me the percentages was like 50% got a 1 and 2. And I was like, wow.
Yeah,
When 50% of the thing failed, people failed the test. Unfortunate. Don't miss it though.
yeah, don't mislead it. I
Yeah.
mean, how do you compare college like to high school? I feel like it's a lot better. At least in like having the ability to control your own workflow.
I think so,
And
yeah. I like that aspect too. I think it's just for most students, it's just adjusting into that new workflow. Because I think when you start off, you have too much liberty, so you kind of just go off, and then it's. I think most students they don't get their like life together until they have actually made a mistake or an error. Like until something bad has happened, then they don't get their life together. But for the most part, yeah, you do have that liberty. Because I think having that freedom is one of the biggest things that kids are looking forward to once they get into college. And when they get into college, they're like, oh, I don't have to like just sit down and study all the time. I can go out with friends more often. I can actually go out and just like go to the gym more often or like play sports like every now and then. But then it's a lot different than high school because high school, like I said, we had an ordered structure. So you always like do this, extracurriculars, study, repeat, kind of like that order. But in high school or in college, it was like all over the place. So I like the format a lot more in college. I think it adapts well with my schedule, but it's just being able to manage it and just like actually like stick to it. Like understanding that I have to set my priorities at certain days and times. Because if you don't stick to those, then things kind of start derailing itself, and then you just end up playing like this game of catch up, especially in school. So it's like, at least that's my opinion on it. But in terms of like difficulty of classes, definitely harder. But I think it's because I'm more interested in it. It's not too bad. Because like obviously in high school, I wasn't interested in like English. I wasn't interested in like history. I was more of a science and math guy. So when I was just doing science classes, it was a lot more interesting, and I wouldn't mind the workload. Like I complain about it all the time, but I wouldn't mind it as much as if compared to like if the workload was for like history or something. So yeah.
I mean, you have siblings who are still in high school. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, is their workload the same as it would be in like physically on campus, or was it adjusted? Because I know for like college, at least in my experience, it's been mostly like more long-term assignments, and of the short-term assignments, they're pretty manageable to do in like maybe an hour or
I
two.
think it just depended on the professor for me because it like if your professor just jacked up everything to like level 11 real quick, then it got worse. And for some reason, one of my classes got worse in terms of workload. But um, no, because the thing is, what high schools did is because I think especially with public school systems, at least just from what I was seeing, um, they just kind of like once March happened, that was basically kind of the end of the school year because from March to pretty much the end of the year, they couldn't make any assignment mandatory because not every kid had the same like resources like internet, computer, like those devices. So they couldn't make any work mandatory. So every assignment from March to June was just extra credit. So
Well,
basically, if you
don't they all have Chromebooks though? So because
no, yeah,
they all were
yeah,
able to use them, right?
yeah, that is true too. But I think it's just like the argument was like even though you have Chromebooks, that doesn't necessarily mean you also have like the internet connection at home. You know what I mean? Like there's some students who actually
I
don't.
suppose.
Yeah, and then or like because there was like there's actually a good portion of students who actually go to the library just to do work because that's the only time they get to use the internet, right? So there was like that issue, and obviously it wasn't big. I would say maybe like probably like 5% of the school would have to deal with it, but it's just like the living conditions and being able to adapt to it. Because let's be real, um, high school teachers didn't have enough time to kind of prepare for this. I mean, no one in the U.S. kind of had time to prepare for it because we just kind of just jumped straight into like, oh, one day we're at school, the next day we're not. So, and that was the case for them too because one day they were in school and then literally that same day they all got a notification saying, hey, don't come back this week. So it was like that split moment, everything changed. And but like yeah, every assignment became extra credit, so nothing could be graded for it couldn't nothing could hurt your grade. You either keep the grade that you have or you let it increase. So for most kids who already had an A in the class, they could have just basically given up because there's no point in them or there was no incentive for them to do any of the assignments other than for the willingness to learn. And let's be real, if you're a high school student and you have to choose between the willingness to learn or have free time to do whatever you want, I think people would take the free time to do whatever they want. Especially when you're just stuck at home, you can't even go out. So that was a big issue. But then again, let's say you didn't have an A yet. Then every other assignment was just for like the sole purpose of extra credit and stuff. So it didn't even matter anymore because every assignment was just extra credit. Everyone's just, well, I would assume most students would end up just getting an A if they did the assignment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So
mean, I guess it was a lot. It's a really different in college since you have people coming in all over from all over.
mhm.
I know for us at least, people that had to make expenditures, there was like the school had like would give out stipends, sort of
Mhm.
like if you had if you're displaced or you had to buy an internet plan or buy a computer, they'd like reimburse you a certain amount of money. I mean, and like our public school aren't like a for-profit school; it's a public school. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure. Especially like a lot of the seniors, a lot of what like kind of makes senior year was kind of canceled because of what
Yeah.
happened. It's like really unfortunate. And I don't know. Do you think how different do you think it'd be if we were seniors, still seniors in high school versus freshmen in college?
Like, what do you mean? Like, if we were class of 2020 or if we were class of 2021?
If we were the class of 2019, our year, and this
Oh,
happened in 2019, how
oh,
different do you think it'd be in comparison being the class of 2023 for college? Do you think it would have been considerably different, or do you think it would have been just equally as frustrating? Um,
like if COVID happened to us during our
yeah,
senior year.
yeah, in high school.
See, here's the thing. So I think if I gauge the high school thing, so if I just assume the timeline stays the same, right? Like COVID
Yeah,
happens in March. I don't think I would have been too worried, to be honest. I think just because senior year it wasn't like I wasn't really doing much. So in terms of school, if you told me I didn't have to do any assignments, I would have been okay with it because I kept A's the entire semester. So it's not like I would have to do work. And
wow,
realistically,
like nice flex.
okay,
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 Christian.
okay, but no, but classes because classes really like honestly, my senior year teachers got easier too, because they didn't really care as much either. So it was pretty easy, at least for me. I got lucky, but so I wouldn't have probably cared as much. I would probably have just kept learning if I like, for example, AP does. I was still gonna end up taking the Calc BC or CompGov test if this happened to me. So I probably would have still tried in at least those two classes, because I actually cared about those classes more. But then, because the main things you miss out on. So you miss out on prom. I don't know if I would have been too upset about that, to be honest, because I was already originally not even considering going to my senior prom. Um, so if I had missed out on that, I don't think I would have been too worried. That's the thing. Then the other
Mm-hmm.
thing you miss out on specifically, it's
There's
like what
graduation too.
graduation's a big one. But with graduation, I would say that with like I don't know, with graduation, I think for me, because looking back on it, if I'm being honest, I don't think I would have been too upset if I missed that too. And the only reason why I say that is because I'm like no disrespect to the people who actually speak and participate in those like the speeches and whatnot, but I'm not the most attentive person to listen. Like I just kind of get bored. I don't want to be mean to people talking. Like I have respect for them, being up there. They're up there for a reason. They're talking for a reason. But just I don't know. I don't think I would have been too upset about that if I missed it. Because
I think
one thing that
graduation is most.
yeah,
I feel like a good portion of graduation is mostly for parents, family, and friends.
that is
I
true. But
mean,
yeah, because
maybe
in
I'm a
that
little biased since I've been to graduation before, like for
mhm,
orchestra, and like I had mixed feelings about it. It was kind of boring for
it,
me,
it yeah,
but
that too. But I think for me, like okay, so like you mentioned, you go to graduation for the sole purpose of wanting like for families and friends, right? And I
it's like
definitely
a
agree on that.
bookend. Yeah,
Yeah. So if I were to consider that regard, then yeah, I would have missed out on it. But to be honest, if I still had the chance to like still take pictures with my family and friends at some given time or hang out with them and have some celebration party, I think I would have valued more of the stuff you do after graduation, like the pictures and stuff, rather than the actual ceremony itself. So I wouldn't have been upset about missing the ceremony and the speeches and like actually walking through the aisle. I would have been more. I would have like I still wouldn't have been majorly upset, but I would have been more upset about like missing out on being there, so, like taking photos with my friends and family, like having those cherished moments to be with people, kind of like one last time kind of thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to think what else we missed out on. If we would have missed out on, like
I
those
mean, you would have
graduate
missed out on chalking, yearbooks.
Chopping,
Uh,
chopping was fun, but I mean, I don't think obviously that wasn't like the end of the world too if I had missed out on that. So chalk
yeah, I
day
know
was
a
fun.
lot of. I mean, a lot of people didn't go to chalking. I mean, it's.
Yeah,
Well, I feel
yeah.
like a big part of it is like kind of to flex. I mean,
It,
you're
it really was if you
dude,
think about
you're
it.
like
So
you squared off at least 4 squares. How big are those squares? I want to say at least like seven or like 8 by 8 feet squares, and you took 4 of them just to draw a Tommy Trojan on the freaking ground.
I'm gonna
And there was
defend
like
myself by saying I didn't do it. It was Randy who was my roommate, but like I'm saying it was him that did it. So, but that's true. And
I
then
mean,
UCLA copied us, and then they took up like 3 squares as well. But
and then Berkeley did this something similar.
yeah, but I mean,
We
for the most
we
part,
were fairly conservative. We took up a single square. Um, God, it's always USC. It's always USC.
I
Come on,
mean,
Christian.
you gotta make a statement. But quite honestly, I think if that would have been missed out too. I don't know. I feel like honestly, like looking back after, like I think it's just because my perspective is a little bit different because it's already happened to us, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously, if it didn't happen, I probably would be that kind of kid who's like, oh yeah, that sucks that I didn't get to experience it, right? But I think because the fact that we've already experienced it, and looking back, if I ask myself like, would I have been okay if I had missed it? Like I think that's why I'm like a little bit more like yeah I wouldn't be too upset because it's already happened to us. So I think just because the mentality I'm in, I can't really escape that. So I just have this whole perception of like yeah it's whatever, I'm okay with it. But yeah, because we missed out on that. We would have missed out on like grad run. We would have missed out on like senior ditch day. Actually, I didn't ditch second semester.
I mean, like most of our teachers, like, yeah, if you ditch, you're gonna get a unexcused absence. I
That
was
is
like,
true.
I
So
don't have
I
to
didn't
deal
end
with
up
that.
ditching senior. I didn't ditch on anything. The only day I ditched
Yeah.
on is the day that they told us to ditch because the school let us ditch. It was like the
Oh yeah.
senior the show
Yeah
and like the basically grad.
when we were told to leave,
Yeah, when we were
um,
told to ditch, I ditched. But
or
otherwise, I
at like
didn't.
a competition for something.
Yeah.
That was
So,
nice.
so yeah,
I was
I don't
like,
know.
see you later.
I think I have a really not biased, but very has just a weird opinion because I'm the kind of kid who's like I wouldn't have really cared if I had missed out on those things. Obviously, there's
I feel
history
like it's also because both of us are like sort of naturally pessimistic
that is true.
about
I don't want.
everything.
I didn't want to be the one to say it, but so I'm glad you did. But I definitely think that's true. No, I don't think like I want to say yeah, okay, yeah, kind of pessimistic, but at the same time, I think I'm very. I don't think real, not in this term realistic, but like yeah, okay, this is going pessimistic, but
Yeah, I feel like the biggest thing I'd probably like be like kind of sad about is just like not being able to see like my friends for like the rest of the school year because it's you have
that
this
yeah,
expectation that you'll see your friendships through and like
yeah, and
either
college,
you'll
yeah,
go your ways or you'll continue on and during school. But I feel like that like I had this sort of like it's the same thing just in a different context. Like for me, all the friends that I made, like I just made, we all went our separate ways. Like my aside from like Megan Lau, like the closest person lives in Newport Beach, and then
mhm,
my roommate is from San Francisco area, the Bay Area,
yeah,
and everybody else is like in the East Coast. So I mean, I kind of have the same kind of like sentiment, or like you have this expectation that you'll meet new people or you'll stay with your friends, and then it's kind of just like you're cut off. Especially when
yeah,
like our semester was like 49 days. Like we counted,
yeah.
we had a tally count. That's how short it was. And like we
You,
were
yeah.
home longer.
I think no, I definitely agree with the friends part. I think that's probably the only thing I would have been upset about, just not being able to see my friends throughout for the rest of high school, and then because like especially I think this is one where I can definitely speak on now that we've already experienced what it was like to kind of graduate high school and go to college. That this was the biggest thing because you think that you're gonna be super close to your friends, and don't get me wrong, I still keep in touch with a lot of close friends from high school. You know, you especially can't avoid my roommate because he's from the same school and it's like he's my roommate, so it's not like I've missed out on that either. But I think out of like everyone kept in touch with, probably like only like 10% I actually keep up with on like a regular basis, and then the rest 90%, it just distant off. There are a lot of people who I've actually wanted to text back, like really close friends I was good, really close with, and I just haven't. I don't even know why. I had the time to do so, and it's not like I'm lazy or anything, but it's
Yeah,
just
so what's
weird.
stopping you? I feel like being back home has made me like reconnect with a lot of
That's
like
definitely true.
Arcadia people.
I
Um,
definitely done that too.
like Gov team had a reunion, and then
Hmm.
my unit is like we're more active. We talk to each other more. Um, I probably talk to way more people than I'd expect to like still talk to.
That is true.
But yeah, I mean it's natural. It's just like a new chapter in life. You expect to meet new people.
Yeah,
You the people that weren't as necessarily close, you go your separate ways, and you just let like you ride through life. But
yeah.
I mean it's hard to sort of I don't know. We have like a very for me at least, I had that gap semester, which I mean it was good, enriching for myself. I
Mhm.
got learned a lot. Um, but I don't know. Because a lot at first it first when it first started, and maybe when it just ended, I was still there was like it's still a shred of bitterness of like not being able to like go through like my first semester with everybody else. Like I
Yeah.
remember I would visit you at USC like when my dad would go uh, have class, and then
Hmm.
because I didn't have school and you had school, but I couldn't
Hmm.
really relate since I was like haha yeah semester gang. Um, but I, I mean, for me, because since the spring was my first semester, and that was I had to experience. Well, I mean, I didn't know this was going to happen, but luckily, I experienced a lot of new things that I wanted to do. Um, it kind of puts me in like a similar position in um, kind of being. I feel like at the beginning very resentful of this entire situation. Like, why should I of all why should I somebody who just started school have to come home automatically? I remember like my brother was like, huh, you just started and now you're back. It's like you never left. So I'm like, yeah, dude. It's like my room was like exactly the same. Nothing has been touched. So and there's also a 3 hour time difference,
Yeah.
which is like I had to get used to that. I'm still not really used to that. It's which is like something that I'm still considering. It's like, uh, you are you going back to campus next semester?
No, I'm not.
Because
It's
I
just
they're staggering the grades, right? It's like certain grades go back, or you have the choice to not go back.
see USC being a private school, and it's been very hazy for us. I think just a lot of things have happened in the past few weeks, like with the whole ICE situation, with the tuition. Like USC's tuition went up, so that was another big issue we've had, and then just a lot of the political things have been going on. So obviously, it's been a lot to take in. But in general, because we are a private school system, they obviously like in a really low key manner, they want students to go back, like because they need the funding and the money to do so.
Same,
And
same.
yeah, if you go back in person, it justifies the tuition cost. At least that's just my opinion on it. But so I'm not going back. I already anticipated that fall semester was going to be online, even though people were like, oh, we have a chance of it being hybrid or in person. And I was like, no, this is the USFA. Like, let's be real here. It, I don't care much about politics, but just looking at how things are turning out, this is going to last a while. So I was like, yeah, it's not going to happen. So for fall semester, I was like, you know what? I'm fortunate enough to not have to pay the tuition. I might as well just cancel the housing too, so I don't have to pay anything else. Maybe like one random fee for something that comes up. I don't know, COVID fee or something. But um, so I'm saving a lot of money, even more than I already am this next upcoming semester. And I was like, you know what? I'm a science student. I'm a STEM student, right? I'm not gonna get the same experience with labs. I'm not gonna get the same experience with certain classes. So I was like, let me just do the classes that I don't really care about as much. Like in all due respect, I don't care about GEs as much because I'm not one of those undeclared students trying to explore my options. So I was like, okay, let me just do GEs this semester. I have to take calc again because being STEM, couldn't use my AP credits. I was like, okay, I'll just do calc this semester. I know math online is probably not the best thing, but calc will probably be my hardest class. And then I'm gonna do two like minor courses for my minors. And I was like, yeah, they're pretty easy. One of the class only meets up on Monday, and it's a full course, like four units, which is like the max units for a class. So I was like, yeah, I'll just play the semester smart. I have to wait out till spring semester. in just all due honesty, I think spring semester will be online as well too. Just my honest opinion right now.
Yeah, I mean it's not a very not trying to like be pessimistic or like overly cynical, but yeah, I sort of agree.
I think
I mean,
yeah. I think here's where I
it's
can
just
say
not looking too good.
I think here's where I
I
can
mean,
say I'm a little bit more realistic than pessimistic, in my opinion.
yeah, I mean, I'd say I'm a very realistic person. At least while I try to be pragmatic most of the times, I'm at times more of a like cynic or a realist. But I mean, for me, for you, it's a little easier since USC is like a 30-minute drive,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's local.
like an hour drive. For me, it's
At
a
max.
5.5 hour flight across the
Yeah.
country, which is why I've had to like think about it a lot more. And I mean, for me, it's been like a decision that has been like I've deliberately like addressed like personally, just
Mhm.
because well, one, I do have to pay tuition, and I think
Yeah.
BU is more expensive than USC right now. Jesus, like
I don't know. We
eh,
jacked up pretty high. We jacked up pretty high. I think we might be more.
I
Just
mean, just in general,
it's not even it's not
private
even something
schools
I'm
are
proud
just
of
so
doing.
expensive.
Like I think
But
the estimated cost of attendance now for ours, I saw someone tell me it was like 80K, and I was like, "Jeez."
oh wow, yeah, that's
So,
egregiously high. No,
yeah,
but I mean, I have like the way I rationalize with myself is like cost benefits. Like I did like
yeah,
a small cost benefit analysis and
EVA.
a risk and a benefits and risk like comparison. So it's like, well, I know I have to take a biology class next semester, and I know that regardless of what the outcome is, our school is doing a hybrid, but also because our school has the capability of testing and creating our own tests.
Mhm.
So while that's fortunate for our school and for the people who really want to go back, I really didn't see it as a justifiable means to warrant me going back. Especially, yeah, going back to that biology class, I know that it's not going to be the same regardless of the outcome. And that's just
Mhm.
something I have to like deal with. And like, it's sort of like a compulsory class. I don't really have a choice whether or not I take it.
Yeah.
Like, I have a fairly set path
Mhm.
for these first 2 years, technically. I don't know if I can count my freshman year
Yeah.
as an actual year, but I, because that's all kind of been a blur. Um, but for everything else, I mean, I'm a social science major. It's all reading and it's all writing, and technically that doesn't really require any kind of um, in-person classes. It could all be online, and all my being online. I mean, I got used to it. Well, it's not my favorite thing. It's very doable, um, and everything is restricted. Um, you're you're confined to a very small space. Um, your friends who may not live in the same dorm, you won't be able to see them. Um, and just your access to everything is restricted. It's like facilities, libraries, dining options, and just mobility around the urban areas like very difficult, especially when
Yeah.
everything is spread out. You typically walk. I typically walked everywhere. Like every day, I'd walk like 6 to 7 miles a day.
Mhm.
I mean, in comparison now, I walk like maybe like 10 to like 1,000 steps a day. Um, like which is like geez. But yeah, I've had like I've been on the fence about this for a long time because just today, our move in, we had to reserve a time to move back in if we were going back. And I filled it out just because it was like, well, I better fill it out just in case. Like, I mean, there's like a maybe like 10% chance or probably less that I go back just
Yeah.
because I feel like I feel hyper aware of like what my parents spend for me just because especially like with my brother moving out now and having to deal with his own finances, I've had to like look at my own finances, look at what finances have been put in place to support me, and I can't really con- I can't really condone for myself having to spend like $10,000, $9,000 on housing that I know I can't really maximize. I can't like I at least I know I'm safe at home. I can cook my own meals. I can roam about my neighborhood and feel safe. I can't really say the same thing about walking around Boston in a like the BU campus just because it's so spread out and you can't really there's no real accountability for people around you. So that's like something that I've talked to like my professors about because they bring it up and like my parents, and I mean they would support they openly supported whichever decision I made. If I want to go back, they let me. If I want to stay, they would be fine with it. But I know some people aren't as fortunate, and luckily this entire visa fiasco kind of got resolved. Um, and while it's definitely it shows like fractions within our education system
Yeah.
and our education like our education department, the Department of Education is kind of questionable at times, many times. It just it's like a testament of like how things can change so fast. And I don't know, I'd say that the US has done abysmal has like an abysmal effort to kind of curb the situation because I mean just like walking or going in Pasadena, it's like a whole different world than it is in Arcadia. At least Arcadia, everybody wears masks. Everybody is like pretty
Smart about it.
aware of what's going on. And then Pasadena, people don't wear masks. People don't social distance. So it's like a very controversial and topical issue. I mean, I don't really see how it's an infringement on personal liberty, just because it's like.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a whole different topic for a different day.
That'll be for another day. Man, we really are pessimistic. We started with like a really simple, happier topic about Boba, and now we're on to our crisis.
I feel like you had this coming when you said, "Hey, we're gonna wing it and we'll go wherever it takes us." I was like,
That is true. We tend to usually when we just call each other normally, we end up talking about this kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised it went to this. No, I think it's true, and I think just for the sake of time, so we don't make people go their entire lives listening to just us. I think we'll wrap it up here. But I think yeah, it's a good thing to mention. And it's just
we can cut
one.
out 90% of what we talked about
Oh, we could.
and
We
just
definitely.
say, "Oh, we can like splice what we say and just have a very cryptic message."
Oh,
Uh,
that
oh
spend
yeah,
spend 8 hours trying to decipher one. We'll do it. I'll talk to you later. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. I think this is a good place to stop, just so we don't get any more depressing than it is. But just 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 like to leave people on a realistic note. Please wear the mask. Like
I
I'm,
mean the everything's closed again now.
everything's closing, but if you have to go out and like grocery shopping, please wear a mask. Like honestly, it's not gonna kill you. And there are people who have dedicated literally their entire academic research into figuring out this stuff. And like I, for one, who actually does do some research in like immunological pathways and like neurodegenerative diseases and stuff. Like I know how these things kind of work. And then when people like argue this whole other like baffling thing that just contradicts science, just pure logic, I'm just kind of like, well, they claim they do their research, but I don't know what they were researching. So just in my opinion, wear a mask. I think Bailey, you can say the same too. Like you were gonna go out, just please wear a mask.
You can see you can save your boba for when you go home. Drink it at home or drink it in the
Exactly.
car.
Light
I mean,
eyes.
have you
Light eyes.
seen those have you seen those masks with like the holes in like
I've
the
started seeing memes about it, and then the fact that it turned from memes into reality kind of scares me.
yeah. I mean, just be safe and drink your boba safely.
Yeah, amen. I think that's a good message to leave this off. Be safe, wear a mask, drink your boba, and we will see you on another episode.